the Off-Grid family. Today I'm doing a preliminary review and build of a sort of bog standard disc and belt sander. It wasn't very expensive, I got it from eBay. I've needed one for a very long time, but we just haven't had the finances to do it. But it was my birthday, so my wife sort of went out and got me one or two tools that I've needed for a long time, which was lovely. There's not an amazing amount to put together on these sanders, it's just to make their profile smaller for packaging. I will set it all up, I'll give it a quick test, you know, on the belt and on the disc sander. I keep trying to call it a disc grinder for some reason. And we'll just see how it goes, and then over the next few months, as I use it more and more, I'll be able to give you a proper review of exactly, you know, the good points, the bad points, and everything else. Let's get on. Okay, let's open this up, shall we? Something quite important I always find is how good the instruction manual is. You know, how the language is laid out, if it's been like translated from Chinese to English, and what the sort of the pictures or diagrams are like. And I gotta say, this one is quite good. It's got pictures for every step of the way. It looks a bit dark in the camera, or possibly looks dark in the camera, but yeah, it's not a bad little instruction leaflet. I'm just gonna actually start it up because this is the rubber grommet that's been put on the shaft that goes to the sanding disc, and it has been crushed quite badly, and I'm not entirely sure if the shaft is straight anymore, so I'm going to try it out and see if it actually still rotates. So I've had things that have come through that have had you know, the shaft's been just slightly dinged, and that's it, they don't work. Fine. First thing it says to do, unscrew the screws. Okay, first thing on, the disc guard. Oh, I've noticed this. This has been snapped in transit. Let me show you. Oh well, it's not a major problem. Right, there's a grub screw behind this disc, and you need to get it on the flat of the drive shaft, and also there's a little hole here so you can get the Allen key down it. There we go. Next thing to put on is the disc guard, the front one. Something I just wanted to show you. These screws don't line up. These two do. This one doesn't, and this one doesn't. It's not. It's been like cut off in areas, but it's not quite right. You know, I thought it was to do with the snapped bit, but it's not. It's it's too tight in there. Now at this point I should put on the sanding disc, but I'm actually going to set it all up first, make sure it's all working, and then start doing it. Now that screw will go in partially but not all the way. Next it's the disc sander table, and this is pretty straightforward. There's a hole here and it just plonks in. Things like this let the cheaper versions of things down. This is a bolt that you have to tighten up quite tight to be able to hold this table in alignment. Let's just check. But it wants to turn, so it's not actually level. If you have a look at the amount of gap, it gets stuck there. But because of where the actual nut and the flat strip is, it bends itself slightly, but if you don't do it up tight enough, then it won't hold itself in place. Can you see how off-centered that is? And it's like it's sloping downwards as well. Right, let's see if we can sort that before I moan about it too much. Right, there are grub screws underneath where the table is actually being held, which I'm going to take out. Well, I'm going to unscrew. And I'm going to see about moving the table across slightly. No, I can't, can I? Let's just move it to there. Just stop it hitting the disc. Right. So still going in that way. Let's see what we can do about that. Yeah, that'll be rubbing off sandpaper if I leave it like that. Right, now let's loosen this one off. Let's do that one as well. Right. After a lot of messing about, I've managed to get the table so it's level, but it's still this way. So this side is just away from the plastic, this side is like touching, but it should just be enough clearance not to be taking sandpaper off by the table. Okay, next the backstop for the belt sander. This bit actually slides underneath this plastic bracket, and then you screw in through the plastic, I think. Now sometimes you'll notice that I use the tools provided rather than getting my own spanner out, which will work a lot better and a lot quicker, etc. And it's because I like to see if what they provide you with is enough, because some people don't have many tools, and I'd rather just see if what they provide you with is enough to be able to put their things together. You know, you've got to expect that they're not going to put a screwdriver in every pack and so on, but things like, you know, this size spanner, you know, not everyone has sets of spanners, so, you know, I'd prefer to use what they've got just to make sure, see if it works. Okay, well that's where the instruction manual runs out, and we've still got these pieces. Obviously, I know what they are. This is for along here. See if it does. And then these are the rubber feet to go on the bottom. So let's put them on. They actually stick quite well on there, actually. Often you get rubber feet and they put them on and you know that they're going to fall off all the time, but these don't feel like they're going to. If you ever do get something that the rubber feet always fall off on, just a little bit of hot glue tends to hold them solid then. Something I've just noticed, this random pole here, this is supposed to be underneath here to give it some support, but let me see if you can see it from downwards. This is how far it's sticking out. Let me take the cushion off. It's supposed to be under there. I'll bend it and stick it under. Well, that's interesting. It's not the right spanner for this nut down here. There we go. Right, take all this bit apart and put the sanding disc on. I was hoping to be able to take it off and leave the screws in there, but I think if I pull this off it's going to fling them everywhere. Now this is just your average stick it on and peel it off later kind of jobby. And it's an 80 grit. We've managed to get the screw all the way in this time. So it shows me messing about with it, lining something back up. Okay, there it is built. After all that. Okay, time for a quick test. Start with the disc sander. Okay, now if you have a look, this is the reason why having the bed level and the disc level is important. Can you see that the line on that is not straight? So this side is cutting less than this side, and that's basically now I'm going to have to compensate whenever I use it to be able to get it so that if I'm trying to round off an edge, that it's rounded on both sides exactly the same, you know? That's pretty. The motor side of things on this is pretty good. I pushed as hard as I wanted against the actual disc grinder, and I had no slipping of the belt, I had no slowing down. I didn't feel like, as I was pushing into it, I would have to pull back a bit, because, you know, I'm going to start slowing down the speed of the disc or whatever, you know. So, yeah, it's not too bad. You know, it is a cheap little device, but it's not too bad. Okay, so what do I think of this as a, like, preliminary, very, very quick test? It's okay. You know, it's a cheaper model. You know, it's not a branded model. I'm sure if it was, they would sort out the table so that it, you know, it was exact and it would come exact. Even with all the tinkering I've done, it's not quite right, and there's no way of me, you know, correcting it any more than I have. So the table's quite an issue. The actual little slider part of this bit it's terrible. You know, it's cheap and tacky. You know, but you can get different ones of them. The motor's pretty damn good, but it's just like, there's a lot of little things wrong with it. But as a cheaper alternative, you know, this cost about £80, I think. Whereas, you know, the next sets of them were 110 and so on and so on. And I'm sure if you pay a bit more for it, you will actually get, you know, what you've paid for. But this, I think, will be absolutely ideal for me. I don't think that I'm, you know, going to wear the motor down very quickly or any of that sort of stuff that you get with cheaper, you know, cheaper motorised goods. And I did find that, you know, I could push as hard as I wanted against the sanding disc, and it wasn't slowing the motor down. There was no sort of fear that the sanding disc would stop or slip its belt, whatever. So yeah, all in all, I'd say it's not bad for the price. As I say, a few teething problems and a little bit of a pain in the bum to put together. It would be nice if the actual guard for the disc sander part was made of metal, so it wasn't so flimsy and wobbly, because then you'd be able to get it a bit more straight and that would help the table, etc. But yeah, I would say if you're in the market for a cheap disc sander, you're not expecting, you know, gold star quality from it, then this isn't a bad one to buy. So yeah, this will be coming up in a few of my builds in future. I've got various things to make. I've got some knives I'm going to be making, and I've got a can crusher I'd like to make, and various other bits and pieces. So you'll see this every now and again, and after a few months I'll do another quick what do I think after a few months kind of video. If anything's broken on it or whatever, you know, I'll let you know. Anyway, thanks for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye.